Good evening. It's here in this room that we've witnessed the comings and goings of 32 players in this 888.com World Championship, all diligently practicing alongside us in our studio. But now we've reached a critical phase in the semi-final stage. Only 4 men remain. And this evening, Stephen Hendry and Ronnie O'Sullivan are putting the finishing touches to their preparations ahead of the third of a possible 4 sessions. But this match has taken a dramatic turn of events. See for yourself what happened this morning. There may have been nothing to separate these 2 men when they came out for their second session this morning, but by the end of it, it was a whole different ball game. The Rocket opened proceedings with a break of 93. Frame 10 continued a worrying trend for Stephen, of him missing key balls and his opponent winning frames he had no business claiming, 6-4 to Ronnie. Hendry missed another red in the next, and freed from his shackles, O'Sullivan began to fly. The Englishman's long potting was exemplary, this long red initiating a break of 87. And next up for Ronnie, a total clearance of 133. Stephen could only sit and watch as Ronnie followed that with another total clearance, this time of 135. The double world champion had the cue ball on a piece of string. Immaculate positional play combined with all of that heavy scoring.
Call the police. We've missed one.
That turned out to be a false alarm though, and it's Hendry who's in need of the emergency services. Ronnie completed a whitewash. 782 points scored, 8 frames won, 12-4 up. A session of snooker that had the boys in the press room chattering.
What Ronnie O'Sullivan did this morning to Stephen Hendry was what Stephen Hendry used to do to opponents throughout the 1990s. He capitalised on every mistake that Hendry made, pounced to full effect. Back-to-back total clearance is not something you see very often, just one of the greatest sessions ever seen at the Crucible.
When he managed to pinch a couple of frames early on this morning, the pressure came off him and he could play his real game. And when he gets into that stroke, it's poetry in motion. There was nothing Hendry could do about it.
That session reminded us that O'Sullivan, at his best and when his mind is on the job, is the best in the business. No doubt, no debate.
Well, Phil Yates thought it was the best session of snooker he ever seen at the Crucible Theatre. Willie, you did the session. What did you think?
Well, 8 frames on the trot. Hendry should, in fairness, won the first 2, Dennis. That was the change in the match. After that, 11 frames on the trot, which is a tournament record against Stephen Hendry. He's got it all to do tonight, has to win 6-2.
Well, this crowd can't wait to get the players out there. And to bring them out, we're going to hand you over to our MC, Rob the Talker Walker.
Thank you, Dennis Taylor. What a champion from 85. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday night. Your bank holiday weekend has just begun, and we still have 3 days of world-class snooker for you. Backstage, 2 of the very best in the business waiting to go toe-to-toe. So without any further ado, let's get the boys on the bass! Introducing winner of an outrageous 36 ranking event titles, 7 times the champion of the world, making his 12th semi-final appearance, he's the undisputed king of the Crucible, Stephen Hendry! For the most naturally gifted player ever to grace the game. A sensational 147 on Monday, making his 8th appearance in the semi-finals, the 2-time champion of the world. Blink and you've missed him, because here comes the Rocket, Ronnie O'Sullivan!
Terrific atmosphere in the Crucible Theatre tonight. O'Sullivan within sight of the finishing line. He needs 5 more frames to go through to his 3rd Crucible final. Can the proud 7 times champion Stephen Hendry summon all of his powers of resistance this evening? We are about to find out in the company of John Virgo and Clive Everton. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Hazel. Good evening, everyone. Stephen Hendry's first task is to avoid losing with a session to spare.
Thank you. Frame 17, Ronnie O'Sullivan to break.
If O'Sullivan wins this session 5-3, tomorrow afternoon's scheduled final session will not take place. Hendry facing the mother of all uphill battles, but at least this year he's established himself as a credible contender at the Crucible again after a lean patch. Hendry 87% pot success rate, O'Sullivan 94. Only 78% of Hendry's safeties have prevented O'Sullivan potting a ball. Next shot, 81% of O'Sullivans have so prevented Hendry. But the statistics don't do justice with to the quality of O'Sullivan's performance this morning. For at his best, O'Sullivan is the best there's ever been. It is in fact 5 years since Hendry beat O'Sullivan in a match of best of 9 or longer, semi-final of the UK Championship, although the 2005 Welsh Open final was very close, 9-8 to O'Sullivan.
Well, that's opened it up a bit, but playing safe off that red in the baulk end, Stephen misjudged it. And if he can't get through to a red to the right corner, then he's been a little bit fortunate. But Stephen will need a bit of luck, you feel, if he's going to get out of this hole he's in. Ronnie pots the red. It was a tough one, so that's why he didn't play for the cover, just a roll-up snooker.
Ronnie O'Sullivan 1.
Would have been safe had he missed it, but having potted it, he's left Hendry there.
Well, this is the dangerous side to come down. He's just did pretty well. There was 3 reds there that were potable if he just slid past. They may just be a red that Ronnie can cut to the left corner. I think, to be honest with you, Clive, I don't think Stephen can stop Ronnie playing. I don't think anyone could stop Ronnie playing, even with safety. You're going to leave him some long pot. I think what Stephen Hendry's got to do is try and have a error-free evening. I think that's the only chance he's got. A big ask. But there's a mistake from Ronnie, catching the brown. Chance of a pot here for Stephen. This red to the right corner. Well, if he's refusing it, he better make certain he doesn't leave that red for Ronnie O'Sullivan. And he has.
A few years ago, John, I don't believe Hendry would have turned that red down.
Well, I don't really understand why he turned it down then, Clive, to be honest with you. There was always the risk that you could leave this red. And it looked to me as though Stephen could have played it as a shot for nothing. But as I say, he's got to play error-free, so maybe he's erring on the side of caution. But he'll have to play better safety shots than that.
1. Six. 14.
There are loose reds, but what O'Sullivan is an absolute master of is opening the bunch without losing position.
$15. $22. 23. $30. 31.
Well, if he's straight on the black, it's restricted his positional options from that ball.
Well, he can't get through to the pink, so this isn't straightforward, this, because as we can see, being straight, if he plays the screw back, he's going to collide with the red near the right hand cushion, so that won't help. Play for the pink, and lucky to have it as a second option.
37. $38.
Still one red at the bottom of the cluster that is available, that he can play for. Usually in those situations, Ronnie leaves himself a little low, so in potting the red, he can bring other reds into play. And that's the case here.
45.
Made certain he was back in the middle of the table with that cue ball. But he only brought one red into play.
$48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 48. 49.
Well, Hendry knows that this frame is over for him if O'Sullivan can get the bunch open.
We've come to expect nothing less. He played the cannon.
57.
He hit the perfect red to split them open. It's another frame in the bag.
$63. 64.
So O'Sullivan has picked up where he left off at lunchtime.
$70. 71.
An exhibition of supreme skill.
$78. 79.
So can O'Sullivan make his 10th century of this championship?
86. 87.
Left himself nicely on the blue to come off the top cushion. Can he just nudge the red? Unlucky.
92.
It looks as if it's automatic.
It's frighteningly good.
99. 104.
O'Sullivan certainly doing his bit towards setting a new record of total centuries for the championship.
108.
This is the 58th. The record is 68.
113. 119.
O'Sullivan's third total clearance of the day. You can't argue with perfection. That's 12 frames in a row for O'Sullivan. He leads by 13 frames to 4.
And we really are getting into record-breaking territory here. The most number of frames won, Willie and Dennis, was by Mark Williams, 13 in a row against Quinton Han a few years back. But this is unbelievably good. How would you sum this up to people who can't play snooker, who've never played snooker?
Clive Everton summed it up perfectly there by just saying you can't argue with genius, and that's what he is. Stephen Hendry, lost the match really in the first 2 frames this afternoon. Since then, he's literally not had a shot. That was just awesome.
It was indeed awesome. And for a proud champion like Stephen Hendry, how humbling an experience and how painful an experience is this?
Well, as was mentioned earlier, he's done it so many times to other players, but Stephen was trying to do the right thing there. He refused a long putt, which wasn't a bad decision really, but you've got to get a good safety. He didn't get the good safety, and Ronnie knocked the long putt in. End of frame. It really is scary how well he's playing out there.
Well, it's seldom that we see this level of ruthlessness, mercilessness,
I think
almost.
Yeah, Ronnie's mentioned on a few occasions he respects Stephen Hendry more than any other player, and maybe it's just he wants to beat all the records that Stephen's got now, and the fact that he's made 3 complete table clearances, that could be another record in the best of 25 if he gets another couple of those.
It's not getting any better for Stephen Hendry.
The last frame was the fourth today, in which O'Sullivan has kept Hendry scoreless. Well, just for once, O'Sullivan slightly misjudges a safety. Now then, let's see the other player play.
Yes, and I'm certain this packed audience here this evening echo those sentiments, Clive.
That's a good opening pot.
8.
Hendry turned a long pot down at the outset of the last frame and never got another chance.
9. Can I just ask you to turn your earpieces down? Thank you.
Those gentlemen are listening to our commentary on those earpieces. The volume is adjustable, gents.
$16. 17.
3 reds, 3 blacks.
24. 25.
'Little cannon there along that line. Should leave him nicely on the red to the, the black. You heard the crowd take a deep intake
32.
of breath. They thought it was going to stay there. But gravity took over.
$33.
This is the sort of position in which 147s are made. But it really would be something to make one at the end of a 12-frame
40.
losing streak.
He's not playing for the black.
41.
Didn't have the angle to run through. And it's all about pride in performance now for Stephen. He wants to win frames.
Yes, simple realism will tell him that he's unlikely to win from this position, but he's just got to play
47.
each frame on its merits and hope
48.
for an outside chance of something developing.
Just felt he got slightly heavy contact, but he's nicely on the black, no problem. Red at the top of that cluster of 4 will go to the right corner.
55. 56.
It's very difficult to maintain your faith in your ability when you're having such a pounding as Hendry has had, but he seems to have done so.
There you go. Just
63.
a couple of reds away from winning a frame.
64.
I don't think he ever doubts his ability, Clive. I know the point you're making, but it's hard to keep going when you're taking such a pounding. There's one thing Stephen does have, and that's great belief.
$71.
So O'Sullivan knows that this red will be enough to end his 12-frame winning streak.
72.
Well, Ronnie, for once today, has sat and looked on while Stephen compiles a frame-winning break, and every credit to Stephen here.
79. 80.
Well, he's just not got the cannon right. A bit close to the blue. Could play the pink if he doesn't fancy the blue. It's just a case now whether he can match Ronnie and do what Ronnie did in the first frame and made the century, and he'll be keen to do it.
Still on course for century number 718 of his marvellous career. Well, lost concentration on that, so no century, but the break of 85 breaks his 12-frame losing streak. Still, he has the mother of uphill tasks, trailing by 13 frames to 5. And Hendry produced that break from an excellent opening red. He turned one down in the opening frame, but O'Sullivan's safety cannoned the green and left that position for Hendry. So he made 85 from that.
Yes, and a superb 85. It was a pity. He was a little bit disappointed he didn't make the century, but he's come here to battle. He could have quite easily took a risk and made a big bid for the 147, but he didn't. So he wants to get this into the session tomorrow and just win as many frames as he can
Ronnie
this
O'Sullivan
evening.
to break.
Another long red, but this time the black is not available.
Yes, not available in the left corner. He may be able to stun round the back of the black. Great shot. Round the back of the black.
1.
Now, where does the black go? Will it go on its own spot? And if it does, will it be available?
8.
It is.
9.
That's Stephen Hendry's son Blaine, himself a very keen player, and Gordon Hendry, Stephen's father, on the right.
Yeah, I spoke to Gordon, Stephen's father.
60.
And we were just reflecting on the morning session, and he said, well, Stephen knows what he's got to do. He's got to win 6-2 tonight at the worst. So they were thinking positive, the Hendry camp.
17. $24. $25.
Not an easy pack to go in off the blue because the pink's separated, but I think the red just above the black will go. Sorry to play a little cannon. Oh, he's getting down quick, so
30.
It must be perfect.
$31. $38. $39. $46. $47.
Nice angle on the black, couple of loose reds. I don't know whether he decide to go into the bunch here. He did. Now, need a bit of luck always, need a bit of luck. Had none.
54.
How unlucky is that? On nothing. Very, very unlucky. Hit them nice, the middle red, bounced off the cushion and just drifted up to one. If he'd have stopped short, he had one to the left middle, he'd run on a bit further, he had the red behind the pink. As we said, and we were saying quite a bit in matches, and we always have done at this game. When you need a bit of luck, you never seem to get it there. Looking if he can snick off this red and not catch the bump of the middle pocket.
Stephen Hendry.
Just a bit pacey with the cue ball. A very unfortunate end to that visit. That's the most important red that Ronnie had to cover. The one to the right corner, he's done that. Stephen now has got to be very, very careful. Okay, he's got a 54-point lead, but the way the reds are, there's not a safe ball on the table. This is what Hawkeye's telling us, and this is the view, and look at that red on the right there, but boy, that would be a tough red to take on. And this is where you make a decision. Do you think you can get it safe? Coming round off 2 cushions to lay on this red here. Got to judge the weight perfect and the line. Doesn't want to find any gaps here. Don't find a gap.
Hole in the mix. Ronnie O'Sullivan 4. Settle down now, please.
An attempted smother shot, leaving the cue ball up against the red. But now vulnerable to an O'Sullivan clearance. Black not on its spot, but the way O'Sullivan's playing, that may not be too much of a problem.
One.
That wasn't the time to play for it.
Six.
Could be a key shot here if Ronnie plays for the black. 95% pot success for Ronnie. Outrageous.
Yes, and he lost 4 of the first 5 frames yesterday.
Seven.
He's having a close look. He may have come just a little too straight. He has. Bit of work to do with the cue ball here. Just couldn't get enough side on to avoid the red, but he's got a red
14.
to the left middle. It's not ideal. But that was a good shot at that pace. Missable.
Andy would have weighed up beforehand that he had a reserve option.
15.
If his first choice didn't work out. Got the emery paper out just to make sure there are no fibres hanging off the edge of the tip to distract him.
Couldn't get the right side of the blue, so a little bit of work to do with the cue ball, but you feel one good positional shot could set up a frame winning chance. Ooh, enforcing the blue, he's missed it and he's going to be on the red.
O'Sullivan 15.
Well, that's the first time that that's happened today.
Settle down now, please. One.
So Stephen with a second bite of the cherry. .36 points the lead. Ronnie was digging in, playing with side, lots of left-hand side, just threw the cue ball offline. Well, 43
8.
ahead, 59 remaining. Red colour red that's needed. He wanted to be a little bit further away from the cushion than this.
Nine.
And because he had the wrong potting angle on the red, this black, he's got to give it due care and attention. Just one more red needed after it.
16.
So now we know that Stephen Hendry has won 2 of the first 3 frames in this session.
$24. $25.
Hendry is certainly queuing well enough to put together a succession
52.
of big breaks. But he's got to get the chances to do so, either by knocking in good initial reds or by profiting from an O'Sullivan mistake.
$37. $39. $42.
Prior to this match, Hendry said, if you let Ronnie get in front, he'll bury you. And Hendry
46.
is determined not to be buried. Breaks of 54 and 46 from Hendry in that frame. But O'Sullivan still leads by 13 frames to 6.
Well, young son Blaine certainly approves of his dad's comeback. What do you make of the way he's rallied in the last couple of frames, Willie?
I think he's looked excellent, and he was very, very lucky not to win the frame at one visit again, as he did in the previous frame. When going into the pack, he split them beautifully, ended up touching ball, and Ronnie ended up getting back in again, and that was the turning point of the frame.
Dennis, you sense that he's having to go for some of the longer pots. We saw him take on a couple of long reds in both of those frames that he's won. Looks like he might have to go for broke effectively here.
Well, he knocked them both in and he virtually won both frames from that. He almost lost that frame, and Willie said he had a bit of bad luck when he split the pack. But Ronnie did play a shot there where he didn't get the right side of the blue, and we can show it here. So he's bridging on the cushion, he's playing it with the right hand side, and he just took his eye off the pot. He was concentrating on where he was putting the white. But I think Stephen, in fairness, deserved to win that frame. He was unlucky when he landed on the red.
I suppose the aims are changing as the match progresses. It's to make it respectable, clearly, at the moment, from Stephen's point of view. But how important is it to summon memories of comebacks that you have managed in the past? And he's managed a number.
Well, I think the one when he won, I mean, he's won 10 frames in a row here in a final against Jimmy White when Jimmy led him. I think it was 14-8, and he won 10 frames in a row. So those are the sort of thoughts that you have in your mind when you're sitting in the chair.
Think positively, Willie, yeah?
Get out of this session 6-2 in front, he's still in the match. Any other scoreline's hard to see him winning.
Okay, let's go back to it.
In this championship, Hendry has managed to access some of his great past and has looked altogether more formidable than he's looked all season, or indeed all last season. He's only reached one semi-final on the road to Sheffield.
As he played that snooker behind the black, purposely played the red with a bit of pace to loosen the cluster. And Ronnie's just got to be a little bit careful here. This isn't a formality to get out of this and not leave a chance. That was a clever shot from Stephen. And he's going to make Ronnie think a bit. If he just doesn't catch the right red here, He could certainly leave a red onto the middle pockets. And that's what he's done. Okay, it's a difficult shot, and maybe Ronnie took that into account. Bridging over, what, 4 balls here? Striking down.
It was difficult.
He played it slowly to give it every chance to go in the pocket. But it's so difficult, those shots, because the cue ball and the object ball are not in your eye line and you're striking down. But it was half a chance in the context of this match.
1.
And now Ronnie at the table, and the reds are nicely spread. And as soon as he can, he'll play for the red just above the black and get the black available into both corner pockets. This is a decent chance, this.
Six.
If it had been straight on this red, he'd play for the one above the black, but he's just not straight on it. And if he pots it, he's going to cannon the black, so he thinks he might knock the black to the top cushion. So he's got to adjust this cannon well.
Seven.
This black is difficult. Yes, would have liked to have, when he played the cannon, had the black bounce off the cushion a little bit more. It was tricky, but he made light work of it, as he's done with most things today.
15.
And O'Sullivan determined to reassert
22.
himself and snuff out any incipient
23.
Hendry revival virtually at birth.
$30. 31.
Easy to roll the black in, there's a red near the right middle, but worth playing the cannon here, you would have thought. Worst way to be on that red to the middle, and these reds are all sort of covering one another slightly. And judged the cannon nice, but knew it was only a quarter ball, but if he missed it, he'd have drifted past it and been on the one to the right middle, but in clearing that, he made this red available and the one he cannoned.
$39.
He's looking. Has he run too far? Surely not. No, he could just get to
45.
the red. To win the frame at this visit, he's still going to have to play a little cannon.
48. $49.
Right, let's have a look at the score now. 54 points the lead, 83 remaining.
54.
Well, if he got 2 reds, 2 blacks, he'd be just past the winning line.
55.
The blue, well, yes, the blue and a red and black would put him 68 points in front with 67 left. So he doesn't have to try and develop anything. The balls that he needs are in the open. And you see 60 ahead,
60.
red and a black, 68 ahead, only 67 left.
61.
Well, every time that O'Sullivan has got properly in today, he's won the frame from it.
68.
And although the split didn't work out, he is 68 in front with 67 on the table.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 68.
So buying the snooker, that's 14-6. .68 plus a perfect safety.
Well, Ronnie O'Sullivan 7 and nothing.
Hendry concedes. 14-8 it is for O'Sullivan at the mid-session interval.
How ominous is it now looking for Stephen Hendry, Dennis?
Well, just one chance again, but Stephen was a bit unlucky. He was bridging over a red there and just didn't manage to convert the red into the middle pocket. Otherwise, he could have had them. But once again, Ronnie, one chance and he virtually wins the frame.
Both men different agendas now. We're thinking about the end of the match here, and both of them are.
Ronnie's obviously favourite to win the match regardless, and what Ronnie will be trying to do is win 3-1 the next session, so he wins it with a session to spare. What he wouldn't give to have the whole Saturday off to relax. In saying that, he's run 14 miles already today, so if he has a Saturday off, he maybe can do a marathon.
But at the same time, a proud champion like Stephen Hendry, he will be trying so hard not to let that happen.
I honestly hope it does go to a third session, regardless of whether Hendry loses the match. He's been an absolute genius and a gentleman over the years, and he's too good a player to lose with a session to spare, but he's playing against a man who's in the best form of his life, really.
We're talking in defeatist terms here, but do you genuinely believe Stephen Hendry thinks he can still win? Absolutely.
I mean, he is a very, very proud player, and make no mistake, he's done this to players and top players throughout his career, so he'll be thinking, listen, there's no reason, there's only one player can play on the table at any one time, and Stephen will be thinking, it might as well be me rather than Ronnie.
I mean, Dennis came up with a great point, the fact that he's already done it against Jimmy White, winning 10 frames on the trot. So if he wins all 4 this session, he's done what he wanted to do, keep the match alive by winning the session 6-2. Any other scoreline is tough.
OK, well, they've got a bit of thinking to do over their half-time interval. Cup of tea all round, I'm sure. But, this hasn't been the greatest championship for the island of Ireland, because no one from the north or the south has managed to get past round 2. Despite that, Dennis Taylor continues to smile. But so does fellow Ulsterman and comedian Mr. Patrick Kilty.
It conjures up me at about 8 years of age on Christmas morning coming down and having a 6-foot snooker table which went over the top of the dining table, and at 4 in the morning my brother was Alex Higgins. And you see, the thing about it was that if you grew up in Northern Ireland in the 70s and 80s and someone said, I'm Alex Higgins, there was really nowhere else to go. So I kind of ended up being Dennis Taylor, but that was before Dennis won the World Championship, so that was quite uncool. Probably one that sticks in my mind was when Cliff Thorburn got the 147. And that was just, it was a big thing. People were actually calling people in from the street. Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? And I think Bill Werbenick was playing on the other table. But that somehow sticks in my mind just because it was the first time it was done. And and it was just, you know, the grinder. Like, I remember that really vividly. Good luck, mate. Yes! We used to hustle pool in America, in bars, and that was not because we were very good. We were not very good, but whenever you played snooker, and you know, the small pockets and the big table, and then you go to these bars in America when we were students, we used to win a lot of money. I think I'm a lot better than I really am, and I do have that sort of Bill Werbenick thing that I need at least 4 pints in me before the cue action is remotely acceptable. A big break is like a girl walking past with a short skirt. You know, you're going to look. Whereas a tactical battle is, would I marry her? And so the tactical battle is what would draw me in, I think, in the end. You know, there's nothing better than, come on, off 3 cushions in behind the green. And he meant it to be the brown. I find that snooker hypnotises me. I tend to, when snooker's on the television, I have to stay away, because if it doesn't matter who's playing, if I sit through 3 frames, that's it. Right, you can just cancel everything. I'm going to be in the same underpants for 2 weeks, just calling for pizza. To be honest with you, I might turn up in Sheffield. You know, I think it'd be quite nice just for the, you know, the final session of the final. Yeah. Everyone's in tuxedos, and I'll just be there in me jockey Y fronts. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Hey.
That conjures up quite an image, doesn't it? Change your undies, Paddy. Well, you know this fella quite well, don't you, Dennis?
Uncool, being me. Where do I see you, Paddy? I'll tell you, no drinks for you.
Dennis was uncool then, but ever since he's won the title, definitely the coolest man on the planet is our Dennis. Now, you know, we've all marvelled at our own Steve Davis over the years, and let's face it, at the age of 50, he's still in the top 16 players. Well, he is until Tuesday at any rate. But, you know, he's not the oldest player to have featured here at the Crucible Theatre. And this is indeed the 30th anniversary of a quite extraordinary achievement. Because in 1978, the amazing Fred Davis made it to the semi-finals of this World Championship at the age of 64.
He was such a gent.
He knew every move possible on the snooker table.
The sense of humour was superb.
Somebody everybody aspired to be.
He was the ultimate professional.
Just a real sweetheart.
Dad, who will be remembered as the cheeky smiling chap, used to irritate Uncle Joe a great deal because he used to think that whilst he was smiling, he was not concentrating.
Fred lived a little bit in the shadow of Joe, but a lot of the people that knew an awful lot about the game reckon that Fred might even have been a better player than Joe.
People always make unfair comparisons between the two. Fred was a great player in his own right. After all, he won the World Championship on 8 occasions.
His favourite trophy was the very first trophy he won, which was the Boys Professional Championship. I think he won it for the first time as a 16-year-old. He did win it on a number of other occasions, and that was the one trophy that he prized above all.
Fred didn't practice that much, but just had that sort of short cue action, just more like this kind of thing, like this, and always smiling as he's got his foot on your throat, you know.
In his early career, Fred couldn't be bothered to practice. He went to a tournament in Australia in 1960. He never hit a ball until the tournament started, and he duly demolished everybody.
What a tough competitor on the snooker table. He used to have a little mannerism. You'd be sitting in your chair and he'd play into the reds and he'd spin round and laugh to the crowd, and then he would get down and look at his shot, and you'd think, oh right, I've got a chance now. He's ran out of position, and he would look at a ball and look at a ball, and you'd think there's no way that'll go. And then Fred would get down and stroke the ball into the pocket, and the crowd would applaud, and you used to think, you old devil, Fred, you did that on purpose. Good tactics.
In 1978 he reached the semi-finals, which was the last time that he actually got that far in the World Championships, which was not bad for somebody at the age of 64.
The shot I always remember, he played Perry Mans, the South African, in the semi-final. And he was clearing up to win this frame. It was really close, we were getting near the winning line. And he had a straight pink.
And he's restrained.
And he missed it. And everybody was aghast, and Fred sort of couldn't believe it was the easiest pot of all. But what I always remember, I walked out backstage and his brother Joe, who'd been watching the match, was sat slumped in the chair, ashen-faced, and said, "How did he miss the pink?"
Fred was the oldest ever semi-finalist at over 60 years of age, and that feat will never ever be done again. The thing is, years ago, safety play was more important in the game, and Fred Davis undoubtedly was one of the game's great safety players.
I think he felt disappointed that he'd been so close, but very pleased that he'd put up such a good performance. He was still playing professionally at the age of 79. There's not many professional sportsmen that can say that. I would like to think that the legacy he's left is a very buoyant game, and I'm sure that the game will go from strength to strength. I know that if it wasn't for both my father and a number of other professionals over the years keeping the game alive when it was in the doldrums, there would be no snooker now.
And it was a real treat to meet Fred's daughter Alison the other day. Dennis, what was your first memory of Fred?
Pot black, and he just finished a match and I was down in the dressing room and Fred just happened to come down, so I held the door open for him. He says, "Thank you very much." And he proceeded to talk to me with his cue in his hand for about 20 minutes.
Goodness.
It was the loveliest memory that I've got in the game. He was a real gentleman.
And such a good player to such a ripe old age. Can you put into context the achievement of having made it to the semis at the age of 64, what it meant then? Because there were some great players then.
I mean, the thing was, obviously, the game break building wasn't a key element in snooker in those times, and Fred, as I mentioned there, was one of the best safety players of all time. And what he did, he always put you in trouble. OK, he didn't make the century breaks all the time, but he always played shot to nothings, and he always putting you in a position where it was very, very hard to win. And as Dennis mentioned, you know, he's one of the nicest guys. I only had the pleasure of playing him on a couple of occasions, but missing that pink there will always live in my memory, the fact that he could have got to the final of the World Championship and played Ray Reardon.
Do you think Stevie Davis will still be queuing it up at 64?
He'll be playing when he's 100, Stevie.
I think you might be right. Lovely memories of Fred Davis. Now, over the snooker season, the insights that our graphologist Elaine Quigley has offered have intrigued and rather spooked us in equal measure over the last few months. She's never met myself or Ray, any of the commentators or any of the players until yesterday, and yet she's been able to analyse our handwriting and come up with some rather interesting home truths.
3 people have kindly given me a selection of items: a tree, stars over the sea, and handwriting. So I want to get a composite of what they're like through these 3 different mediums. Looking at the writing first, we have very upward sloping lines. Now this is a good thing to have upward sloping lines, but in this case they're sloping up rather too much. So it shows that this person is putting effort into being very positive, maybe because he doesn't want to do this particular task. There's very strong personal pronouns, there's very nice and flowing writing, but also the D stem particularly is the old-fashioned one going to the left, and that means usually that they don't really want to be exposed, they don't want to talk about themselves. It also can mean an academic approach to life. The big wide margin over from the right side being quite wide, much narrower on the left. This is telling me that this person does not want to let me know about him at all. He wants to be very much his own man. He's got quite a lot of warmth in his writing, and I think it's just the fact that he is an individual. He does not want people to pry into his personality. So to find out whether this is actually a true story, first of all the tree. Now the tree really does bear this out. It's a very small tree. It's a very private little tree up in the top of the page. And it's got a lot of leaves, which is good and lively, but it's a very tiny amount and a very tiny trunk. However, they're both quite well drawn. So he's showing me, I'm all right, I'm fine, it's who I am, but I'm not wanting to share me with you. Now we're going to look at the stars and waves. The stars actually are not stars at all, they don't twinkle. And they don't have any real life to them. And the stars are very evenly placed, so again, not natural, not looking lively. Then we've got this rather large bowl-shaped piece of plain stroke, and the waves are underneath it. So this person's again saying to me, it's not your business what I'm like either. We know he's got emotions, and that's what the waves are underneath. We know that he does have some goals, and that's what the stars are. But again, he's keeping them to himself. Now the next one that is coming up is a very much different piece of writing. First of all, we've got our lovely flowing writing. It slopes to the right, it's very even. It's someone who is a very careful preparation person. Whatever he does, he's going to do it absolutely the best he can. It's not a heavy pressured writing, there's a certain calmness about it, which is very nice. It's nicely laid out, the margin on the left-hand side is good. He feels comfortable in his skin. If we look at his tree next, the tree is a nice tree. It's got proper shaping, it's not shoved up in the corner of the thing, and we've got a nice strong trunk, lots and lots of leaves. And the lots of leaves mean a productivity. He's got a productive thinking pattern, no impediments in the trunk. So that does mean that he feels that whatever he's doing, he does it straight away. He doesn't have to worry about whether he's going to be unhappy with something, something's going to get in the way, he's going to be impeded. It's a nice, comfortable tree. Feel the back, and there's no pressure on the back. There's no pressure on the back of the writing. And that means this person is very sensitive to people and to atmosphere. Now we're coming to the stars and waves. The emotions here are quite calm, but plenty of them. He's not a person who's empty at all. He's got lots of warmth in him. The stars are actually quite busy. It's a full sky. He's got lots of ideas, lots of ambitions, but they're not major. The stars are quite small. But he's quite content. He doesn't look for any more than that. He is really in a comfortable way. This is the last one I was given, and we've got the writing. Now, the writing is a very flowing writing, which can be pleasant and warm, but it's all over the place too. There's a lot of emotion here, which is not shown, I think, because I get the impression of the way the writing's put together, with the D's, like in the first one, going back over to the left on the person's side. He might be outgoing in behaviour, but certainly not to share with other people himself. And I think he's got a lot of energy, and he needs something that's really going to push him into the stratosphere, some new excitement or something that's going to set him going. The tree shows a very strong trunk. It's got roots, but it's got just branches at the top. The leaves haven't come yet. So I think it's bearing out the fact that he's got all this energy and he's wanting somewhere to put it, where he's going to make some new, fresh spurt in his life, some new experience that's going to make him feel good. And if we look at the stars and waves, we get exactly the same story. We've got good emotion, nice and firm and plenty of it. There were stars in the past that were sparkly, but the current stars are a little bit staid. Again, he needs this firing up. I wonder what new challenge he could find, but a new challenge he needs. And that will make him just fly, because he's got so much energy pent up. It needs being directed where it would do the best good.
Very nice, very interesting. Nice trunk, Dennis, may I say. Were you surprised? Did you recognise yourself there?
It is a bit spooky, because I've watched most of them about the players, and she is very, very accurate, very accurate.
I haven't seen her analysis of you yet, Willie, but it'll be interesting.
She's not caught up with me yet.
Ooh, just as well, all right. Well, let's get back straight to the commentary box now, because we're just about to see the rest of tonight's semi-final. But there they are, that great ball of unleashed energy, who is John Virgo, and the rather shy private, Clive Everton. What did you make of Elaine's findings, guys?
Well, I was incredibly flattered to be told that my tree was well drawn. I haven't drawn anything since I was at school, and then it was only under protest, but her analysis was pretty much on the money, I thought.
Yeah, and I'd have to agree. I've been writing an autobiography for 7 years and still not finished it, so I do need a push in the right direction.
(14-6) to O'Sullivan then. And
thank
if
you.
He could win,
frame 21, Ronnie O'Sullivan to break.
If he could win 3 of the 4 remaining frames this evening, he would render tomorrow afternoon's final session obsolete. So Hendry on the back foot from O'Sullivan's break-off.
Yes, and this isn't straightforward. He's got to catch this just right, otherwise he'll leave a red on. And he has. He's left the red to the left centre. There's possibly one to the left corner as well. He's mighty close to it though. Well, if he plays this one to the left corner, the referee will be having a very close look at this one. This is the safest red from the point of view of not fouling anything. Now, as we saw in the last frame, Stephen Hendry had a red to that same pocket, and bridging over 4 balls, it's not easy. And it caught Ronnie out, as it did Stephen. Choice of reds. This is a big shot. Doesn't have to do anything with the cue ball to be on the black, but needs to get it.
Eight. Nine.
O'Sullivan's playing so well, I'm pretty well assuming he's going to pot the loose reds, and so the point of interest will be how he develops the bunch.
14.
O'Sullivan loves the big stage and loves to put on a show. And the further he is in front,
20.
the more he can forget about the result and just concentrate on performing.
21.
Yes, I think all great champions, when they get in front, they're not looking over the shoulder, they're just looking ahead. And he's played some superb snooker today. He's underhit that slightly, has to be said.
28.
I know he wants you to be a little low on this red, but maybe not as low as this. But in potting it will bring other reds into play. could not have played that any better.
$34. $35. $42. $43.
When we get to this one table situation, Clive, it's like a different venue completely. I mean, we're used to the two table early on, and you hear applause and noise from the other table, but it's cathedral-like at the moment, isn't it? The expectation of when this young man comes to the table. Oh, he's run past the pink. Is he on this red to the left corner? He's got
50.
one to the right middle, but he wants it to be on the one to the left corner to stay on the black, and he's just about on it.
$51.
Let's see him try and stun round off two cushions here for the two reds just to the right of the black. As per usual, inch perfect.
58. 59.
O'Sullivan has got his game, and even more important, his mind into optimum shape for this championship. He's had
66.
a few implosions here,
67.
but this is a remarkable exhibition of sustained excellence. Another frame in the bag.
74. 75. 82. 83.
O'Sullivan in pursuit of his 11th century of the championship, the 60th of the tournament
88.
in total.
89.
It's his own 4th century of the day.
95.
Coming up.
96.
Yes, and the record for an individual in the World Championship during the tournament as he makes that century is held by Stephen Hendry with 16 century breaks.
102.
So that will be another target for Ronnie. Stephen had the most maximums with 8, but Ronnie bettered that earlier on with his 9th in tournament play, and now closing in on that record, 16 centuries in the tournament.
Settle down, please. $114.
Excellence on a scale of Tiger Woods, Roger Federer, or any other supreme all-time great you care to mention.
723.
Even from the straightish angle on the blue, he overran it. What cue power. So there was no table clearance, but there was a break of 123, which increased O'Sullivan's lead to 15-6.
And there we have it. That was the 60th century of this year's championship, and we are closing in on the record of 68, which was achieved in 2002 and 2007. We've got 3 days to go. There's every likelihood that's going to be beaten, especially if Ronnie O'Sullivan continues to play like this. What was the key shot for you fellas in that last frame?
Well, I think we were watching it, and Willie, the split that he made on the reds was absolutely superb. I mean, just talk us through this, Willie.
Well, the beauty is a lot of players play this with a lot of deep screw, really, and all they're doing is moving 2 or 3 reds. Ronnie's got this wonderful cue action where he can push through the ball, and before the spin takes, it's almost going into the pack and pushing through. And as you saw there, 7 or 8 reds come into play there.
But not only the position was absolutely perfect, so, you know, he really concentrated on that as well.
I think what's impressive is the speed at which he's playing. He seems to be cruising around the table tonight.
Well, we've always been amazed how quickly Ronnie can play, and the maximum, we always talk about 5 minutes 20 seconds, but whenever he's in the balls, he doesn't ever feel pressure in break building. A lot of players try, when they get to the 60 mark and need 2 more reds and colours, they all of a sudden get excited. Ronnie doesn't even worry about it.
Just a matter of time now, because no matter how well Stephen Hendry plays, if he gets a chance, we know what Ronnie's going to do.
He's in a hurry to get to this final, and he needs 2 more to make it.
Well, the only crumb of comfort, not that Hendry will appreciate it, is that he can't lose 17-4 as he did in the 2004
Right, settle down, please. Remember, this is a World Championships
semi-final.
There you go. Can he get past the blue just to clip that head on the red on the right hand side of the table? He can't see anything else. Well, Hawkeye thinks he can just get past the blue and snick this red. And finding the path in between the green and brown, absolutely superb. Top on the table from Stephen. You can't play a safety shot any better than that. Applause, but Stephen won't be happy with that one. He's left the red to the left corner.
Well, the potting machine has broken down.
Touching ball.
Yes, missed it, but he's left nothing. But touching ball declared by Kayla Tabb, so should be quite an easy path back to the balk end for Stephen. Touching ball, you fire away from the red you're touching, you deem to have hit it. Well, going this way, you just got to avoid the blue and possibly the brown to get near the balk cushion. And even the yellow.
That's the 81-year-old trophy, purchased with half the entry fees of the first championship in the 1926-27 season. Stephen Hendry's name is on it 7 times, but not for an 8th time this season, it looks like.
Stephen having a look down here at these two reds below the pink, see if there are plants. I don't know why it would interest him, he can't get through to it. Unless he plays a cannon off another red, but that would be very risky. Well, it could be made, but as I say, from where he is, the pink's in the way. He obviously doesn't see a return to balk. And there's been so much pressure on Stephen all day with Ronnie's play that every shot he's just frightened that one mistake and that could be his last one. So he thought if he got this cue ball near the top cushion he may not leave a red, but there's certainly one on to the left middle which Ronnie can play, run to the balk end, and the yellow's over the pocket as the colour.
It was difficult, even the way O'Sullivan's playing. He knew, though, that if he missed it, Hendry would be playing from only a couple of inches from the balk cushion. But maybe he can get at the plant.
Well, he can't get at the plant, he's playing safe, but he's got to catch it just right this. Oh, and he's missed it on the way up. Now, what has he left? Certainly the red to the right of the blue is in the open. The one closest to the cue ball, does it go in the right corner? Just about, but it's one of those you'd like to be right behind it. I think the one to the right of the blue is the better option. Where's the red going? Surely not, surely not!
One.
Well, Stephen smiles. The last thing Ronnie needs at the moment is luck.
Settle down now.
To he who hath, it is given. And all the way along the balk cushion, in off the yellow.
7.
Quite possibly the start of another frame-winning break. Hendry was about to get up
14.
and then realised he didn't have to, but he was philosophical about it. You have to be.
15.
Well, this has gone slightly wrong. The blue doesn't pass the yellow, and he can't get to the yellow because of the blue. So this could be end of visit. Yes, he looks to be looking for the safety.
Run.
He knew it wasn't natural enough. Hendry's certainly got the cue ball on the right diagonal there.
What's going on here, Ronnie? Well, Stephen, you're not getting any help from anybody here. That's remarkable, isn't it? Two outrageous flukes that Ronnie's got.
3.
Off the blue, in the pocket. It's a cruel game. The point, Clive, left-handed. If he was playing that with a rest, you'd have been struggling to play that shot. But left-handed, well, it's just a natural.
11.
So he's had a couple of good bits of fortune here as Ronnie, that's kept Stephen in his seat.
19.
Hendry still pinned in his chair, as he has been for most of the day.
Yeah.
Well, here's an implement we don't see very often.
Extension.
And this far away, this is tricky. You expect him to pot it because it's quite an easy pot. Now you're struggling the snooker clubs at home because you got your shade on the table and you can't get your head under it. But the television lights, no problem with that. I remember the first time we came here at the Crucible, there was none of this equipment.
No, they were the old half butts with the 50-year-old tip on.
Yeah, and they'd be swaying around like a fishing rod, wouldn't they?
20.
But today, with all the extensions, there's not one shot that you can't play without your own cue. It helps. Not sour grapes, just don't know why we never thought of it.
$27. 28. 35.
Not as intended, red.
36.
Not that it made any difference. Except that he's not at the best angle on the brown.
$40.
40. Well, he certainly wasn't in the best position to play from brown to red, but he solved the problem so easily. It would be easy to think it wasn't a problem.
48.
Well, nothing much has appeared a problem to Ronnie today. He's been in sparkling form. And it's been, and no disrespect to Stephen, a virtuoso performance. And that's the nature of this game. As we always say, when the other man's at the table,
49.
there's nothing you can do about it. And that was frame ball.
$56. Ronnie O'Sullivan, 56, and the frame.
So O'Sullivan continues inexorably on. Relentless he is. He now leads by 16 frames to 6 and is within 1 frame of a place in the final.
And I wonder what thoughts are now beginning to spin through Stephen Hendry's mind. Put yourself in his position at this moment.
I think Stephen just wants this match to finish now, especially when Ronnie had a couple of outrageous flukes there. But you've got to take advantage of that. There's no point getting a fluke and then just, you know, not winning the frame. But because he's playing so well and getting the run of the ball, there's nothing Stephen can do about this.
And from Ronnie's perspective, he really is on an adrenaline buzz right now.
Absolutely. I mean, Clive said the word relentless, and I think that's absolutely right. It doesn't matter how good or bad a player you are, if your opponent's playing like that, you know, and getting flukes as well. That's the, I mean, he had 2 flukes in 1 frame, and I think that's the first flukes I've seen Ronnie have this championship. I can't remember another fluke he's had. And he had 2 in 1 frame.
I mean, look at this one here. I mean, if the yellow's not sitting where it is, the red doesn't go in. It goes in off the yellow. I mean.
And this next one was just obviously a safety shot where he's just trying to get a good white. Hendry was already coming out of his chair there. And the next one, he's trying to get a good white. And, you know, the red's obviously caught the blue half ball. And once again, the yellow's come to his rescue, because if the yellow's not there, he has to play a safety shot. And he went on to win the frame at that visit. That's when it hurts.
I'm sure it does. Well, Ronnie's now back in the arena. He needs 1 more for a place in the final for the 3rd time. Will it come now?
A masterclass for O'Sullivan then, but let's not forget the greatness of Stephen Hendry and the trouncings that he's handed out in the past.
I think that shot tells us that Stephen's not going to hold back now. I'm sure he'd like to get it to the final session. There's 2 more frames in this session. Stephen's got to win both of them, otherwise the match is over.
Got the cannon off the bunch that he intended, but the red that he attempted could so easily have finished in a possible position to right middle instead of rolling under the cushion.
Well, how was that not dropped? How was that not gone in? I thought it had dropped twice. a loose red above and to the right of the black, and I think if he slots this black in, just plain ball is a natural angle to play for that loose red. Just asking for the cue ball to be cleaned. Kayla Tabb, who's performed admirably with all these high scores and big breaks going in. She has to give it 100% concentration. Done a great job.
Ronnie O'Sullivan won.
O'Sullivan disappointed because he wants to play perfectly.
One.
And in long spells he has.
Eight. Nine.
There's one loose red, but he's got a nice angle to go into the cluster, and I think he will. Always knew he'd have the option of loose red if he caught them right, and he has, and he's brought
16.
Well, 4 or 5 reds into play.
Sure. 17.
And came in this evening, Stephen Hendry, with that 12-4 deficit. And if you want to know what a champion's all about, just look at his performance tonight. I can't think he's played one wrong shot where it'd been easy to let your head drop. Great player and a great champion.
24.
He played 2 quality frames to reduce his arrears from 13-4 to 13-6, breaks of 85, 54 and 46 in those, but for the next 3 frames O'Sullivan kept him scoreless.
Just having a good look to see which one of these reds. He'd like to be on the straightish red, but I don't think it goes. I think the middle one of the 3 on the right hand side goes, but that middle one that's in a direct line with the cue ball, well, he thinks it does. No, he's playing the middle one. I didn't think the other
25.
one went. Now, surely. No, he's screwed, and he's one red has covered the other.
31.
What with the good run that Ronnie had in the last frame and the bad run that Stephen's suffering here. Nothing going right at the moment. Thin cut this. No.
Stephen Hendry, 31.
I'm going to say unlucky once again. When he potted the pink, he was entitled to be on a red. And, well, it springs to your mind, was that your last shot in this year's 888 World Championship?
1.
Hit it well, into the bunch well, but fate, as well as O'Sullivan, was unrelenting. Well, said that too quickly. Black off the spot.
Well, Ronnie's relenting a little bit. He's just having a laugh with Stephen. He's got away with it again. A little scratch of the head.
these two great players are on pretty good terms now, as we see O'Sullivan's failed black. They did get at odds a few years ago, but everything between them's fine.
Yes, I did some shows with them at the end of last season, and yep, they're pals, and of course great respect for one another. Ronnie knows what a great champion Stephen Hendry is, and of course Stephen has made it clear to everybody that when Ronnie's at his best, he's unbeatable.
Watching intently on the right there, Adam Duffy, very promising young player who's been awarded the Paul Hunter Scholarship, which enables him to train at the World Snooker Academy, located just up the road, the English Institute of Sport.
Yep, Jimmy White and I played an exhibition, the club he plays at, and he can play. Every chance he could be at the Crucible as a player. I'm sure he'll learn a lot watching these two great players this evening.
.16.6 in front, and still addressing the problem with the same seriousness as if it was the opening frame.
Well, it should be an easy snooker this for Stephen, just to tuck this cue ball behind the yellow.
Violin a miss. Stephen Hendry, 4. Sorry. Sorry, Ronnie. Yeah, Stephen? Violin a miss. Stephen Hendry, 4. Okay, Stephen.
It has to be played slowly, a smother shot. Nicely done. Oh. But then the perfect response.
Exquisite. And he's played a lot of those safeties today. It's not all been about potting and break building. And it's safety shots like that that do force mistakes from your opponent and gets you in amongst the balls, and Stephen's got a bit of a job here to get this safe, although if he can just get past the brown, he may be able to rest this cue ball against the top cushion. The only problem is the red he plays, it may be knocking other reds towards the top cushion. Certainly no way back to balk, it appears. So can he find a safe place at this end of the table? Can he see enough to play the pot? Didn't think he could see quite enough of it. Maybe try to bend it with the trace aside. This could be it.
Desperate attempt at a long red. Might as well at this late stage with so little further to lose.
One. Eight. Nine.
There's the Hendry family. Gordon on the right, who's not much of a player, but he told me at breakfast the other day that his father Bob certainly was. He was of professional standard when there was unfortunately no professional game in Scotland.
15.
He died at the age of 44 and never saw his grandson play. How he would have loved it.
16. $23. 24.
10 points behind.
27.
A few delicate little
28.
positional shots to be played. And just watch the way he manoeuvres this cue ball. Picking them off. Stephen Hendry. He's been a credit to himself
35.
and the game this evening. Most people would have
36.
come out and threw caution to the wind from frame one, but as I say, he never really played any wrong shots. He tried his best in every frame. Never let his head go down.
43.
And he's proved this year
44.
that he's still a force in the game.
I think that's the major thing that Hendry will take away from this championship. He wanted to re-experience the feeling of being genuinely in contention, and he was, until he ran into this genius at the peak of his form.
59.
There you see it, 22 ahead, 35 remaining.
Yeah.
Red-blue will be enough. And this has been an outstanding performance from Ronnie. And just think, it was a couple of years ago when he was playing Stephen Hendry in the UK and did the walkout, and everybody then questioned, did he have the right attitude? Oh, wow, he's coming off.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 59. Stephen Hendry.
So careless, but since then he's come back, and I was going to say he's played consistently for the last couple of seasons, but That was just sheer carelessness.
Two.
Well, if Hendry's going to lose, he would sooner lose 17-7 than 17-6.
Five. Nine. 14.
Pink and black still needed.
Coming a little bit further, the black to keep the match alive.
Stephen Hendry, 20.
Well, what a fantastic performance from Ronnie O'Sullivan. It's not a word that I use very often, but it's fully justified here. This authentic genius gave a masterclass. Stephen Hendry did quite well with the very few chances that he had, but it's O'Sullivan who wins by 17 frames to 6 to go through to the final.
Wonderful performance from Ronnie O'Sullivan, a very sporting gesture from Stephen Hendry at the end, albeit he was desperate to keep that match going.
I really enjoyed that because Stephen Hendry could almost lip read what he was saying. He was saying, Ronnie, that was one of the most wonderful performances. You played really well and obviously deserved to win, and it was a virtuoso performance.
He's
fantastic.
A red-hot favourite for this title now, surely, Dennis.
And he put himself, believe it or not, under a little bit of pressure because he wanted to win this with the session to spare. He wanted the day off tomorrow, and if that black had dropped, he may not have had it.
How big an advantage to have a day off tomorrow?
I think it's massive because Ronnie would have taken a bit out of him playing against a seven-times world champion. He wanted to win so badly. Now he's done it. He'll be going a lot of running tomorrow.
I'm sure he will. And how will Stephen Hendry reflect on this campaign?
Listen, Stephen Hendry's beat 3 of the up-and-coming players, 2 of them in the top 8 in the world. He's still there. Don't worry about that.
OK, well, Stephen Hendry goes home. Ronnie O'Sullivan goes through to the 3rd final of his career. Steve and John will be back after midnight with a roundup of all the significant action on this second day of semi-final action. Till then, it's thanks to Dennis and to Willie. And we'll be back tomorrow with the second and the end of this particular semi-final. Bye-bye for now.